This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Scott Howell.
Hello, good neighbors. Welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast, brought to you by the Friends and Neighbors Group of the greater Chattanooga area. Of course, I'm Scott Howell, as the announcer said, and I'm your host for today. You know, a lot of people ask, what is the Good Neighbor Podcast all about? Well, we just desire to bring an awareness to the residents living in our communities regarding local owned and operated businesses. You know, a lot of people have forgotten that, you know, our communities were founded on local businesses. They are the backbone of our community. And, you know, they still need our support today. And every local business has a story to tell. And we, at the Good Neighbor Podcast, we just want to help them to shout it loud and proud so all the residents living in the area know exactly what's available to them and exactly what they can take advantage of. And so we're proud to be part of what's going on here. And today we've got one of our good neighbors with us, Michelle Davis at LearningRX. And Michelle, we are so glad to have you as a special guest today on the podcast.
Hey, Scott, I'm so happy to be here. And I love learning about small local businesses on your podcast. So thanks for having me be a part of it.
Well, thank you for being a listener. Yeah, I know we talked a little bit before we started recording about some of the people you know that I know, and it's really interesting. You know, I've been blessed to be able to meet a lot of really nice, knowledgeable, good people in this area, and some of them have really become good friends of mine since then. So I'm glad to have you today, and hopefully the same thing will happen.
Well, I love community and I love participating. And, you know, I'm from Cleveland originally. I grew up there, and then I moved to Chattanooga, and then now I live in North Georgia. So this whole area within about an hour radius from Chattanooga Center, I've been all over. So I'm very fortunate to have community and friends and, you know, all different places. Absolutely.
Well, there's nothing like it. The whole Chattanooga area is just in my opinion, just a special place. It's just a really special place. Just there's so much to do and see. It's hard for a local to do it and see it all. So, you know.
It's beautiful. I love it.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, you know, before we jump into talking about LearningRx, I'd like to give you an opportunity, if you'd like to share a little bit about maybe yourself and your family.
Sure. Well, I grew up, like I said, in Cleveland, and my parents still live right off of Harrison Pike in Cleveland, and I go visit often. But I went to school there and actually went to Lee University in Cleveland as well, and went into the corporate world before I decided that wasn't for me. And actually, my boyfriend at the time I met during college at Lee. He's my husband now. We've been married 16 years, and we have two. Thank you. We have two beautiful, beautiful children. Oh. They are 12 and 7. Are girls, Adeline and Aria, and they are such a blessing. And you know, we have are involved in different organizations through schooling with them too. We do some homeschooling. We do some co-ops. Actually, we drive from Chickamauga, Georgia to Cleveland, Tennessee to go to Woodsong Forest School. They're an amazing forest school in Cleveland.
Oh, wow.
And so that's just a little bit about us and what we do. And I run the center full time as the owner. I bought the center 2 years ago after running it for 10 years as the director. Okay. And prior to that, I was just started as a part-time brain trainer to get out of the corporate world. And I really wanted to make a difference in the lives of learners. And it just was a gift that I had that I didn't know that I had in cognitive skills. And so if you want, I can tell you all about that. But that's kind of the story about how I got involved with LearningRx.
Please share. That's why we're on here. You just share all that you want to with us, Michelle.
Well, thank you. It's so cool. And I love talking about it because it wasn't until, you know, I was 20 something and learned, you know, LearningRx had come to Chattanooga and opened this cognitive skills training center. And I didn't know about cognitive skills, what they are and how you can change them. And at the time, there was this new word called neuroplasticity, that the brain changes. And no one knew that word 14 years ago. And now most people know that word. They understand, okay, the brain is flexible. It changes. We can change our mindset. Well, we can also change our cognitive skills. And those skills I'm referring to are skills like attention and memory and processing speed, visual processing, auditory processing, logic and reasoning. Those are strengthenable skills that just need exercise, a very targeted, research-based exercise, you know, so
Okay.
we have programs that we sort of customize individually based on the need of an individual person. We work with children, we work with adults, but we can really
Wow.
target those skills. And when you have a stronger memory, then maybe you can retain things the first time and you don't need tutoring, for example. Or maybe if you have stronger attention skills as an adult, you can be more focused on your job and you can get your work done faster, you know, and not get distracted. There's so many different kinds of goals that people come to us with. And we really just put together what can help our brain be the best functioning brain. And we go from there. It's very cool.
Awesome. So you work with children and adults. I guess I was thinking this was probably just kind of a children's program. So what do you do when someone, an adult comes to you and, you know, they're not young anymore. They're maybe not old yet, but they're not young anymore. And they're having trouble with that focusing thing. It's like when they were young, they were super focused.
Yes. Well,
But now they have a hard time concentrating.
It's so common for your cognitive skills to change over time. I mean, you think about your body and how, you know, kind of over 40, your body changes to a point where it needs exercise or you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And your brain is the same way, actually. And so,
Okay.
you know, if you're not giving your brain good exercise, and an interesting thing that I think about is the entrance of the digital world and not just social media, but our phones do a lot of remembering for us. They do a lot of visual processing with our GPS for us.
Yes.
So our brain is not working in the same way that it has. We have a lot of aids. Not only that, but you know how when you're really good at something, you're more likely to do it. And when you're really bad at something, you're probably going to avoid it. Well, our brain actually gets changed and trained when we do hard things that we might want to avoid. So even it's not as simple as just giving your brain exercise. You know, I hear all the time, oh, my mom does a crossword puzzle every day. And I'm like, well, that's not really brain training because she already is probably good at that. And she's already doing it. But she hates Sudoku, you say. That's what she needs to do then. So it really just depends on, you know, how can you flex your brain muscles? And when you first understand what those brain muscles are when it comes to cognitive skill functions, and then which ones are weak and which ones are strong. And then let's target those weak ones and let's build them. And I get to be a personal coach that says, here, we're going to do those hard things and keep you motivated. So I have adult professionals I work with. Our oldest client is 83 years old and she's amazing. She spends an hour and a half at the gym every day. She eats a very healthy diet, follows very specific protocols, and she's watching actually all of her friends decline, and she is not. And she knows if she doesn't get her brain exercise in that day, she can tell. And so it's amazing to watch her see. I tell her all the time, I just want to be Joanne when I grow up. She's awesome. You know? And so, yes, anytime in life you need exercise, but sometimes it's more obvious than others. And that's either when you're in school or when you're really aging.
So I got to ask you then, you said that she's watching her friends decline. And I guess part of that's probably physically because she's going to the gym and maybe her friends aren't. But mentally, do you see a connection to neuroplasticity and what you do? Is there a scientific connection to our brains slipping into dementia and I forgot the other word.
Or Alzheimer's.
Yeah. Dementia and Alzheimer's. Is there any kind of a connection there?
Absolutely. When you look at the recommendations from even the Cleveland Clinic, who really is kind of for aging adults, it's really kind of the mecca of where you want to go and look for that research. It looks at exactly that. What is your diet like? What is your exercise level? Your actual social interactions are a big part of that. Your sleep, your stress, and your cognitive exercise. Those are the areas that you need to be making sure that you're focusing on, because those all play factors into very important, the development of BDNF, which is a protein that your brain makes that is able to keep your brain strong. So wow. There's a lot of factors involved, but yes, brain exercise is one of the primary recommendations, and it's related to all those other things.
That's awesome. I didn't know that, and one of the this is something I've experienced personally, Michelle, and I'm not trying to get you to treat me over the internet here, but one of the things I've personally experienced as I've gotten a little older is I love to read. I'm an avid reader. But now I have a hard time sitting down with a book and concentrating. I have a hard time focusing on some of the tasks to getting it done. I'm so distracted. I've kind of fulfilled that part in my life where they say, you know, I can work all day and look at the end of the day and I got nothing done.
Yes.
You know,
Yep.
it's like I can't focus like I used to. And
Well,
it's very frustrating.
It is frustrating. And like you said, I mean, I certainly can't diagnose anything or
Yeah, I'm not trying to get
or
you to.
fix anything over, but I can say that it sounds like you may want to consider what kind of attentional exercise you're getting. And to be honest, with our screens, our social media, our YouTube, the attention span is getting shorter and shorter. But then again, all those other things play a role. So not knowing what your specific cognitive skills are, there may be a cognitive skill that's not as strong as it used to be. And it's like throwing a wrench into your system. And so we want to kind of look at and see if we can find that, what it is, and then work on it, you know, and that's what we do. So
I definitely need to come see you because it is very frustrating.
It is frustrating.
You know, I'm still in business, and sometimes I cannot focus to get things done like I need to, you know. So it's
you
definitely.
are not alone. I'm telling you, Scott, that's probably the number. When I start explaining what I do, almost every single person I interact with says, well, I have this issue. And it's like, yeah, we all have something. Very few people are going to be not having any cognitive issues, you know, but you know, an interesting thing that I'm finding is that when I learned about a good example is when I was in school, I happened to have great fully functioning cognitive skills, meaning I could focus well, I could retain well, I could visually process. So school was very easy for me. And no one told me that I just had great cognitive skills. They just thought, well, I'm just smarter than everyone. And I wasn't. And I felt like I'm fooling these people who think that I'm smarter. I'm not. It just happens to be easy for me. But my best friend and I would both study the same amount of time. We'd study together. I'd make an A+ and she'd make a C. And it's like, we studied the same stuff, but she just didn't have the same functioning skills. And it's not great to think we all have equal skills. We don't. And so first step is understanding that, but then knowing that you can change that. That was the breakthrough for me. And I'd love to share a story because one of my very first students, this was 14 years ago, she was in 4th grade on a 2nd grade reading level. And all the teachers were suggesting medication at that point because they were just struggling. And that's kind of the go-to these days is, well, it's probably a focus issue. We should probably try medication. We've seen success with it with these other students, whatever it is. That is kind of a quick and easy way to cover up some symptoms, but it doesn't address if there's an underlying issue. She had one and her mom was interested in finding the underlying issue. So she became my student and we did this program. This program, with the ReadRx, which is developed by a team of audiologists, cognitive psychologists, neurologists. There's a plethora of people on this team, dyslexia experts, you know, attention and ADHD experts. They're putting together this training customized to her. I just delivered it. Within 6 months, Scott, she was on grade level for reading from a 2nd to a 4th grade level, never had to get on medication. She brings me her report card. She's on the honor roll for the first time. Her confidence is through the roof, you know, and then she starts coming to see me every year and bringing me her report card. And I'd make a copy of her report card. I'm so proud of you, JC. And she'd go on, you know. And anyway, that was long enough ago that she ended up going to Southern Adventist University and she got her master's degree in social work and did her internship here at LearningRx.
Wow.
How cool is that?
Oh, wow. That is awesome. You know, because you almost just told the same story of someone that just sat down and shared with us the other night that they have a girl fixing going to high school and she's struggling bad. She can do math. She's a whiz at math, but she can't focus on reading. She's struggling with all those things and having to have assistance in school, getting bullied by other kids, calling her dummy. You know, she's struggling really bad. It's obvious that she's really smart and other things, but that one she's struggling.
I'll tell you, I have tested a lot of kids and adults over the years, and it is so common for someone with dyslexia, which is a reading challenge, a reading disability, to have an above average IQ, to have above average logic and reasoning. You know, so you have these smart kids and adults who reading does not click in the same way it does for someone else. And it's so frustrating for them because it's not related to intelligence. And yet in the past, it has been remediated by, lowering the expectations of that student. Well, they need to be in remedial classes and they need, and I can't tell you how many kids and adults I hear the same story over and over again. It's never addressing or changing the brain. And that is exactly why this training program exists. And it started in the 80s to address dyslexia at the brain. It's not a visual issue. It's not a reading. You don't fix it by more reading. It is a brain processing issue when it's related to sounds and reading. So
really, wow,
it's very interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting because I know several people have that problem. Dyslexia, and it seems like you said before. It seemed like today, and I don't mean any disrespect to any doctor at all, but because you do what you're trained to do. But it seemed like today, everything that's wrong with us, there's a pill for it.
Right.
And a pill don't always fix things. I was diagnosed with diabetes one time. Well, guess what? I take a plethora of pills and I still have diabetes. So, nothing fixes that. It's just like masking it or Band-Aid on it. And if there's a way to help a child, especially a child, you feel for a child because, man, children can be cruel to each other.
That's
right.
And
when you have a child that's going through things and are being bullied and it's not their fault, they're doing the best they can. They're giving this one child that, I'm speaking about that gives 110% of everything that they do, but they're just not getting it. And if there's a way to help them,
send her to me. Yes. Send her to me.
To help them so they can overcome that. And then they can, excel in that they're lacking in. Why not?
Exactly.
Why not?
Well, this idea that everyone has the same functioning brain is all wrong, and I try to explain to people when we look over cognitive skills and we find a weak area, this is not a problem. I don't want you to view this as a problem, as a weakness, as a gap. It is a speed bump. It's an inhibitor, and we know what to do now about it. So, traditionally it's been, how do we work around this issue? And I want to eliminate that speed bump by changing the brain rather than working around it. And so, knowing that you can do that. And again, it almost, when I heard this, initially, this was several years ago, that you could change the brain like this, I kind of thought, well, this just kind of sounds too good to be true. I don't know that you can do this. Why don't I know about this already? But after being in this work and seeing the stories that we see, and if you go on our Google LearningRx Chattanooga and read our reviews, grab a tissue because you're going to read some amazing life-changing stories. It is a cool program. And so I appreciate the opportunity to be on the rooftop and shout about it, because that's what I want to do everywhere, is just share the amazing power of what your brain is capable of. And not just, LearningRx is fantastic, but understand that your brain can change, understand it needs to do hard things, and you can absolutely focus on those, and it's not a problem, but let's develop it,
Yeah. The more you talk, the more amazed I am, because, it's how many kids today, let me ask you this. Is there any link to what you're talking about to kids that are being and if not, it's okay. I'm just curious. That their kids are being diagnosed with like ADHD and stuff like that. Is there
that is the increasing a sort of umbrella term. And in fact, I have, yes, the diagnosis of ADHD is way up. And I, even when someone says I have ADHD, it doesn't really tell me a whole lot, because there's different types. There's different ways that affects your life. There's different skill sets related to that cognitively. So we do have to look at each person individually, but yes, there is more and more of that just in our society in general. And not only that, but in Hamilton County, and I don't know about for Bradley County, but in Hamilton County, and it's nationwide. The statistics for third graders who test proficiently in reading in third grade is at about 35%. Testing proficiently in reading by third grade. And when I look at that, and we're doing a lot of reading intervention and a lot of reading approaches in schools, but when I look at that, I'm looking at the cognitive foundation. So if someone does not have the ability to process sounds very well, it's called auditory processing. Auditory processing is regularly misdiagnosed as ADHD. and are at the root of reading issues. And so, that's one thing that is kind of a go-to encouraging for educators and for parents and for, whoever is interested in reading, to look into auditory processing and its relation to reading. It's how our brain analyzes sounds and blends sounds. And that is a primary skill that we train when we're looking at, reading struggles, along with attention and memory and processing speed and the other skills you need to be able to read. So it's not just, one single skill, but, it's interesting when you look at it a little bit deeper, but we do tend to be at a time where educators who have the best intentions to try to help, their student, but it's so hard because educators are expected to be counselors and therapists and cognitive trainers and
mothers
sometimes
and, daddies,
mothers, and sometimes they're focusing on getting kids clean clothes and food, and so it's just really hard because I think we have to have community support. We have to know about community resources. We can't rely on schools to do everything for our kids, and so that's a big thing that, I think is hard because teachers want to help. So they want to offer ideas, but they don't generally know about maybe auditory processing and what that means, or how the brain functions and how those cognitive skills are necessary for the learning process. So
does neuroplasticity have any connection at all with autism?
Well, so neuroplasticity really just means the brain is capable of change.
Okay.
But when it comes to cognitive skills that, when I look at someone who has a neurotypical brain or a neurodiverse brain, whether their diagnosis is autism spectrum or if it's even ADHD or dyslexia, I can look at the cognitive skills underlying, and you either have a great working memory or you don't. Okay. Now, I will say, something that a lot of people who are on the spectrum, which they're totally different from each other. It's not like, there's a cookie cutter thing for autism, but one common thing is a challenge with executive functioning skills. And executive functioning skills is like the executive of our brain that allows us to know what we need to do, when and how we're going to do it, analyze it after we've done it, change maybe for the next time we do it. And so it's kind of like this organization in our brain that sometimes, and it's not just children or adults on the spectrum, anybody could have this issue, but that is one that primarily when I'm working with someone on the spectrum, we're working on organization and executive functioning and working memory, if that's their issue. So that might be, something you pay attention to and look at.
It depends
with that diagnosis, but it depends.
It depends on the situation. I'm glad you're not putting us all in a bubble together. I appreciate that.
Everybody's different. Even with that diagnosis, we really have to look at, do you have working memory or no? And then let's train it or not individually. Everybody gets that approach.
Yeah. It's so interesting because, we talk about all these things. When somebody comes to you, I do want to ask this. I think this is an important question. So when somebody comes to you and just to see if you can help, what kind of myths and misconceptions do you hear that people have, but when they come to you, that you have to kind of help them overcome?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I have had families who have come and been diagnosed something. I'm thinking of fetal alcohol syndrome specifically, where she said, my neurologist said, my daughter will never be able to add, and I just need her to prepare to live with me for the rest of my life. And I was amazed at how her neurologist had limited her in that way. And of course, we worked on this exercise and she was, of course, able to add. She's actually living independently now. She's doing amazing.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's interesting to hear, the inhibiting factors that maybe people have heard from professionals, even whether it's a doctor or a teacher, that, they just are never going to be able to read. They're just not going to be able to do this. And, I have seen so many amazing stories of someone overcoming a cognitive challenge that it's very hard for me to hear about a cognitive deficit that it is not changeable. I mean, in fact, the one case I've had involved seizures. Seizures are like a reset button, and that's the almost the times that I think that's really tough when someone's having seizures. that you could make a ton of progress, and then that seizure is like a reset button,
Yeah.
So there's different cases, but again, the brain is so changeable. It's so beautiful. It's so unique. And when you really target and look at it and grow it and improve it, it's so awesome to watch, Scott. You should come and do some brain training with me sometime. Come do a
I can
trial.
tell you enjoy what you do. Your passion really comes out when you talk. And I want you to tell me what you said one more time. I want to get this in my brain. What you said, what neuroplasticity is.
It's, if you think about the root word neuro, brain, and then plastic, it's really like the brain is changeable. Like when you think about how it can be molded or changed, that's really what the concept of that is that the brain is changeable. People used to think about, before understanding neuroplasticity, you are born with this brain and this is the brain that you have forever. And we knew there was development 0 to 5 and a little bit beyond that.
Yeah.
But even as we age, and you asked that earlier, well, can you teach an old dog new tricks?
Right.
Absolutely. And we used to think you couldn't do that, truthfully, even in the scientific community, in the medical community, but we know that neuroplasticity happens all throughout life now. So the brain is changing, and you get to sort of, if you understand it, know it, or have some support, you can get to kind of form it in a way that benefits you,
Yeah, that's awesome. I really have enjoyed this interview. I honestly probably have enough questions. We could go another half hour of just me asking questions, but there's been so much just to benefit my understanding come out of this. And I feel like a lot of people are going to feel the same way when they hear it. And just knowing that, somebody like you and LearningRx, the program of LearningRx is here in the community and available. I feel like that you should just take a moment and tell people how they can find you, how they can learn more about you, whether online or offline.
Yes, thank you. And I do. I hope so. I hope people will contact me and ask me all their questions, because it is a fun conversation to have when we talk about the brain. And I love, sharing what I know and also getting feedback about your individual situation. So I do consultations. We do free trial sessions, so you can come in and do a brain training session. Our center is located right next to Hamilton Place Mall. Where Bed Bath & Beyond and Marshalls and Ross, that shopping center, we're on the far left, right behind Jim and Nick's Barbecue. And so we're in, right near Hamilton Place. And we do have some satellite training options in Cleveland, and we have some remote training options. So we really work with people all over. But yeah, we have actually a really fun summer reading bingo going on right now. And this is for kids and adults. Now, adults, you have to read a whole book. Kids, they read maybe for 20 minutes, but there are different places or sort of challenges for them. And when they complete a bingo, they get a coupon to a local business that we've partnered with. So you might get a donut from Duck Donuts, or you might get a barbecue sandwich from Jim and Nick's, or you might get, something from Santi's Mexican restaurant. There's just a lot of different cool local partners that we have. And so you can actually download that bingo sheet from our website, and then you just come in and bring it in to get the coupon. So I would love to meet people, talk to people. We are on all the social medias, definitely Facebook and Instagram, sometimes TikTok. I'm like you, Scott. That's on, but for sure Facebook and TikTok, and Instagram. And yeah, I would love, our website is learningrx.com /Chattanooga-East. Or you just Google LearningRx Chattanooga and you'll find our website. It's got my picture on there. It's got all my team members on there. And there's even a free survey. So if you're like, hey, I wonder if this might be auditory processing that I've been dealing with, you can do a quick little survey and it'll give you an idea. It's not, of course, a test or anything, but yeah, it's a cool little tool to give you an idea, and it will, capture your email for that. And we'll probably email you and say, hey, do you have other questions? Can we help? And so, yeah, I would love to do that. And thanks again, Scott, for doing this and having me on.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you give your phone number? Do you give out your telephone number?
Yes. Yeah. It's 423-305-1599.
305-1599. Okay.
That's it.
I have one more question. I love to ask everybody this question. So if there was one thing, I'm speaking to the heart of the business, not what you offer, the heart of the business. If there was one thing that you wish all our listeners could know about Michelle Davis and LearningRx, but they probably wouldn't know unless you told them. And you'd
Okay.
like to share it here today, what would that be?
You know what comes to mind is that, you mentioned my passion coming through. My entire team, I have a team of 10 women, no men right now, that have the same passion. We are our team is amazing and incredible. And, that is something that's at the heart of our business, because everyone that comes here feels like, they have the best trainer, they have the best experience. Because our team is full of passionate people just like me who want to make a difference and to help, especially people who struggle, to change their lives. And so that definitely comes through when you walk through the doors.
Wow. Well, you can't ask more than that. When people care, there's an old saying I learned years ago. People don't care how much you know till they find out how much you care.
Yeah, I love that.
When you care and it comes through and then you get results. Not only you get happy clients, but you get a lot of people telling other people about their experience, and of course that's the best success for business, when people that have used you brag about you.
Yes.
You know your success.
Well, and I know we're going over, but our core values for our team are that we help each other out. We're helpful. We have integrity. We take responsibility. We do things excellent, and we have passion. And everyone that we hire and we talk to, and that reverberates through everything that we do from the business side of things, not the program delivery, but for our center, for our system, for our people, those are our core values. And I think that is so important. I don't have those posted or shared anywhere other than within the team. So that's a fun thing to share out in the public. That's where we're going.
Yeah. Awesome. That's amazing. I don't care to go over. It's fine. No problem at all. I think I want these podcasts to be informative. I don't want them to be structured and just, to the point where they're not interesting. I want people to understand what our LearningRx is, what they do, what they have to offer, who Michelle Davis is, what her heart is. So I think today we've accomplished that part of it. Again, I could just go on and on with questions. We've accomplished part of it.
No, this
Maybe
is
we could
awesome.
do another podcast again sometime and explore some other avenues. How's that?
I would love that.
Okay. Well, Michelle, thanks again for being on the show with us today. I've really enjoyed it, sincerely.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate you. And thanks again for doing this for our community.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I can't wait to hear the next business interview.
Thank you for being a listener, too.
Okay, sure thing.
And to all the good neighbors out there in the Chattanooga region, after listening to Michelle and learning more about LearningRx, I know that she hopes and the other members of her team hope that you'll take it to heart. And whether you're an adult or you have a child or grandchild or whoever in your family, your life, that you see that needs that. She was mentioning earlier about people declining cognitively in their older age. Why not take a chance and try and see if there's something there that they have that they can help you. I mean, all of us, every one of us, want to stay as sharp as we can. Even in our old age, we want to do that. Everybody does. But if we don't do anything different than what we're doing now, if I never exercise and I just sit on the couch or in my recliner all the time, I know what's going to happen eventually. My muscles are going to decline. They're going to get to where I'm going to have trouble walking. And so, same thing with my brain. That's what she's trying to tell us. So why not take the opportunity to see if what they offer could help us? Why not? I mean, what's she said they do trials sometimes. They have something on their website. So just why not try it and see if you don't feel like you can go there. She said they offer some things remotely. At least talk to them about it and see what they offer. I think this has been a wonderful interview. I'm kind of excited myself about looking at it for myself even. So thank you again, Michelle. And before ending this episode, I'd like to thank you all, the listeners, for taking time out of your busy day to visit with us at the Good Neighbor Podcast. And I always say this, always remember to support the locally owned and operated businesses in the greater Chattanooga region, from Cleveland to Dalton, from Jasper to Benton. Everybody's important. Every business, every small local business, and every small local community. You're all important. And I like to say that because I mean it. We're all important to one another. And so let's remember that and help one another out. Again, my name is Scott Howell with the Friends and Neighbors group. And I hope every one of y'all go out and make this a remarkable day.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpcleveland.com. That's gnpcleveland.com or call 423-380-1984.